Hello everybody, Jolly Roger here. I have a little bit of a different video for you today. I want to talk about emergent behavior within the DMZ and how there is no irrelevant information that gets pushed out in-game or out of game that doesn't affect how we behave in-game. What do I mean by emergent behavior? I want to talk about the things that affect how we interact with other players in the DMZ. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today's video is going to be a little bit different, a little bit of a rant video, so I'm sorry about that. I know that's going to be a little bit boring for some, but I want to talk about this emergent gameplay and how Activision resetting our ensured weapon slots and faction mission progress at the release of Season 4 is going to affect how people play DMZ. What this announcement has effectively done is basically make DMZ Battle Royale. They've removed all incentive to finish up our faction missions or try to unlock any more ensured slots because it's all going to be erased at the start of Season 4. Now, the only reason that we would have any kind of incentive to complete these missions is to unlock, weapon blueprints or to upgrade our, active duty slots or things like that. But even that, I think, is going to be reset at the start of the season. I know that they're saying that we're going to be keeping a lot of our, our blueprints and unlock weapons and stuff like that. So that is a good thing. But what I think is going to happen here is that there are a lot of operators out there that have not unlocked these things, and they're going to have a really tough time unlocking these things because all the people that have these things unlocked are going to be doing nothing but hunting other squads with 6-person squads because they have no reason not to. It's the meta right now. They have no incentive not to take the biggest advantage they can and hunt other squads because that's basically the most fun you can have in the DMZ right now. And you can then, all of our contraband is going to be completely wiped out. All of our active duty stuff is going to be completely wiped out. So effectively, at the start of Season 4, we're all going to be starting at ground zero again. Now, since they're doing this in Season 4, what's to say that they're not going to do that in Season 5 as well? And if that's the case, then why do we need to finish any faction missions then either? And so this becomes a really big problem in the way of incentive. And in a game like Call of Duty, if you're not incentivizing good behavior, you are effectively incentivizing unfriendly behavior or player killing. And listen, I am not bashing player killing. It is a part of the game, and it's what makes the DMZ so exciting and thrilling. I am not judging you for being a player killer or being a PvP person in DMZ. It is a part of the game. No judgment from me. If you want to be that kind of a player, good. You are what make the DMZ what it is. I am a firm believer that it is up to people like me to adapt to people like you and to get good. That's the way I feel about it. You may have your own opinions. I've seen a lot of opinions all over Reddit and all over Facebook about how 6-person squads are the people who are ruining this game. I totally disagree with that, and I've made that very clear. One person in Facebook made a very good point, said iron sharpens iron, and I couldn't agree more. The more adversity you face in this game and don't get frustrated and learn to overcome, the better you're going to become at this game. So those are our incentives as good acting players and good players to and team cooperative players. You know what? I'm going to start using that as my vocabulary from now on. I'm going to say cooperative players and non-cooperative players. So I will use cooperative players instead of bad actors and good actors. So when we're talking about cooperative players, I want to talk about players who are honest and will tell you that they'll team up and do team up. And with non-cooperative players, I want to talk about players who just immediately kill you and will not revive you and just are in it for the pleasure of hunting other squads. Not only is that okay, but I have been so frustrated with this game, it has driven me to become that person sometimes. And that is going to lead me into my next point, actually. And that point is why I think that there is so much non-cooperative play in Call of Duty and what people consider toxicity, and I put that in quotation marks, in the DMZ, considering that there is incentive for people to work together because, it makes sense for you to cooperate with everybody in the DMZ, considering there's so much AI out there. And, unless you have a mission that specifically states that you should be hunting other people, cooperation seems like the better strategy. if everybody's cooperating. And that brings me to why such a simple game that's still in beta, that has flawed missions and incentives, is still providing emergent behavior in this environment. And I'm going to tell you why. Because I think this is what keeps us all coming back to DMZ. So what DMZ has effectively recreated is the philosophical conundrum known as the prisoner's dilemma. And this was famously outlined in a book called The Selfish Gene by Richard Dawkins, which funnily enough is the same book that the term meme was coined in. But yeah, so in this book, it outlines what the prisoner's dilemma is. The philosophical concept of the prisoner's dilemma and the interaction between squads within the DMZ share a common thread: the tension between cooperation and self-interest. In the prisoner's dilemma, two individuals are faced with a choice: to cooperate with each other for a potentially mutually beneficial outcome, or to act in their own self-interest, potentially leading to a worse outcome for both parties. This thought experiment highlights the complexity of decision-making when trust is lacking and the fear of betrayal looms large. Similarly, within the DMZ, squads face similar dilemmas when encountering other squads. They must decide whether to cooperate, form alliances, and work together toward a common goal, or to act in their own self-interest, prioritizing personal gain over collective success. The DMZ environment intensifies these dilemmas. Squads must navigate a competitive landscape where trust is scarce and the risk of betrayal is ever present. Just like in the prisoner's dilemma, squads must weigh the potential benefits of cooperation against the potential risks of being deceived or taken advantage of by other squads. However, the DMZ also offers opportunities for surprising alliances and unexpected acts of cooperation. Squad dynamics can shift as players realize the advantages of teamwork and recognize the value of collective effort in overcoming formidable challenges. In this way, the philosophical concept of the prisoner's dilemma and the interactions between squads within the DMZ converge, reflecting the intricacies of decision-making, trust, self-interest, and cooperation in high-pressure situations. Both highlight the complexities of human behavior and the delicate balance between individual gain and collective well-being in competitive environments. Now, in the game right now, what we have is a system where we have a single iteration of prisoner's dilemma, and that prevents us from forming any sort of long-term relationships except with those people that we're friends with. And so the best possible strategy is to always betray, which is why we have this environment that we have right now. And in a single iteration of the dilemma, where there are no future interactions or reputational effects, the best strategy for maximizing personal gain is to betray. This is because regardless of the other person's choice, betraying guarantees a higher reward or a lower punishment than cooperate. However, it is important to note that in scenarios involving repeated iterations of the prisoner's dilemma, or when considering the long-term impact of one's actions, cooperation and trust-building strategies tend to be more beneficial. Over time, the ability to establish and maintain cooperative relationships can lead to greater overall rewards and a more stable and cooperative environment. In fact, in the book, when they applied many strategies to a repeated iteration computer program, the emergent strategy that became the most successful was one called quid pro quo, or this for that, which was an immediate retribution. So when another party betrayed, the best strategy was to immediately betray that person back. I think Activision would be best to incentivize something like that. Ultimately, the optimal strategy in the prisoner's dilemma depends on the context, the number of iterations, and the potential for future interactions. While betrayal may appear advantageous in a single iteration, considering the broader picture often reveals the benefits of cooperation and building trust over time. As it was outlined in the book, this same conundrum, if there are multiple iterations, or if you are in a society where you can recognize certain individuals within that society, then the best strategy is one of what they called a quid pro quo, or a this for that. Now, what that means is that it's an immediate retaliation. So as soon as you see somebody acting out of sorts, you immediately give them retribution. So what this could mean in DMZ see is perhaps maybe you could see if in their last deployment they successfully exfilled, or how many players they killed with a number after their name, or something like that, of how many players they killed in their last exfil, or possibly like a little red skull, or however many, just something like that. That gives us an indicator of how they're playing and how they're conducting themselves within the DMZ. Possibly if they conducted a hunt squad contract in their last deployment, or something like that, that just gives us an indicator that maybe we can trust this person or maybe we can't. Just to give a little bit of a, I guess, maybe an incentive not to do those things unless you have to. And but I understand why they haven't done that as well. It makes sense that they shouldn't. If you're going to have PvP missions in the game, it really doesn't make sense that you should be penalized for doing them and completing them in game. Another thing that I think might be good is if you were to create active duty characters that are PvP focused, and maybe they are just that way in game forever. So if you want to be a PvP focused player, you know, maybe you get certain bonuses to, you know, UAVs and things like that, and also you get certain, you know, detriments to, you know, like maybe you're easier to track, or you have you have bounties that, you know, you get hunt squads for your squad because you're a bad actor in the DMZ. You know, that could be a thing too. I could see that turning out to be a thing. So I think it's important that in conjunction with our feedback, I think that Activision needs to give this a lot of thought and how they incentivize cooperative and non-cooperative play. Because the system they have right now is, quite frankly, it's broken. It's not where it needs to be. Not because I'm not enjoying the game. I am enjoying the game. This new game style has a lot of potential, man. It is such a good... The exfil simulator genre is such a cool game style. It's very, very new, and they're fleshing it out, and I give them a lot of respect for being brave enough to implement this new game style and to also take all this criticism and feedback that they're inadvertently getting. We're all fleshing this out. I know we're all very disappointed with the reset of our insurance slots and how this has made everybody in the DMZ kind of a PvP focused player. It is what it is. So we're gonna, you know, have to do this for the rest of the time that we're here, and that is just the way it is. So while we make our way through the rest of Season 3 and prepare ourselves for Season 4 and the changes that will bring, I think that if Activision can, maybe in Season 4, incentivize things a little bit better and create the sort of environment where us prisoners in the DMZ can start to cooperate and be incentivized to do so, or to be less cooperative and to, you know, the right sort of incentives to be PvP focused. I think that makes sense, man. I think we can really develop this, you know, this new genre of game, the exfil simulator game, and develop it so that it becomes a very viable genre. Otherwise, I think that without this sort of evolution, that we're going to become stale, and that's not what I want for this, because this new game mode is very intriguing to me as not only a veteran, but as a gamer. And I want to encourage people to start thinking about how Activision can make these changes in game will be more beneficial to the overall experience in the DMZ. Because if they continue down this, you know, I know we're still in the beta, but if they continue down this path of just resetting every season, it's going to become pretty stale, and I think that it's not going to be very fun. So anyway, listen, I want to touch on one more thing as a content creator. I want you guys to maybe think about getting onto these forums, and instead of just complaining, I want you to start maybe thinking of real viable solutions to the way that these things can get changed. There are a lot of ways that your voices can be heard. Get on Twitter. Get on the social media of Activision. Get on the comments on my page and start making these concerns known, because Activision needs to know. And without your input, they're never going to know. So please, use your brains and start thinking of really good solutions to these problems, because these resets that we're doing, it's not the way. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning into my video. I know it was a long rant. I appreciate you stopping by, liking, subscribing, all of that. You guys are amazing. I appreciate it. And I am Jolly Roger, and I will see you in the DMZ, operators.